Yes, which was pretty awesome. Some of them were
Off the top of my head, compared.
You are now listening to the Voices of Dubai.
You're listening
Watching the Voices of Dubai with Joe Hage.
This is the Voices of Dubai.
Karim, thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure's mine.
I remember the first time we met as if it was yesterday. It was in 2015, and I was working at Montage TV Productions as a sound engineer. For me, that was a moment that really marked me because, you know, fresh off the boat from Canada, where you used to work from 9 to 5 sharp, and even at 4:58, people start wearing their coats to go out. My producer comes in and says, hey, Joe, we have a session tonight at 7 p.m. Needless to say, that really pushed the button for me. But it was a pleasure to meet you in person.
I'm sorry, I had to do that to you, actually. But yeah, I think I remember I met you and you told me that you just came from Canada and you had this, like, you know, sort of Toronto swag and stuff, and we spoke for a bit, and you're into rock, you were into metal, and that was very interesting. Mm-hmm. The reason why I showed up late at the time is because you're going to find it sometimes very challenging working as a creative in an agency and being a voiceover artist at the same time, because there's a lot of challenges when it comes to timing. Mm. Because, you know, you gotta take your car out of the parking, drive to the recording studio, find a parking at the recording studio, go upstairs, record your bits, and then wait for the feedback from the producer, the creative, the client, or the other agency. And then by the time they give you the feedback, you know, you're like looking at the clock and you're like, oh, okay, time's running out now. I got a job that I gotta keep, you know what I mean? So I moved my sessions to after 6. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, I don't think we have unions or we believe in overtime here. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but I would have given you a piece of the you know, the spoils.
Yeah. No, but it's great. You know, like, I really believe that everything happens for a reason, and we ended up talking about metal music, about guitar for like hours after the recording was done. So that was the positive side of staying up late, you know. Yeah. And I was first introduced to overtime in Dubai, which, I mean, as you know...
oh, yeah, no, I mean...
it's not an unusual...
But it's fun. Like, we do great stuff. We've done great stuff together, actually. And before, you were really, really, really intricate and detailed when it comes to the way you craft, you know, your know-how on you know, mixing and getting the right take out of it. You know, you do add a lot to the process, mm-hmm. which is wonderful, working with great sound engineers like yourself.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Karim, I'm curious, do you remember your first voiceover recording session ever? Like the first project you ever did?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so it started, if you want to go like way back, or do you want to go like professional back? Because they're kind of linked a little bit.
Okay. Was there a non-paid session and a paid session that you want to tell us about? Or?
Yeah, obviously there's both. I mean, pretty much from a discovery level, like back in so I studied mass communication and advertising. Mm-hmm. And you have to work on a lot of projects, and you write the projects as well with your teammates. But then, you know, you want to bring it to life. So who's gonna record? Who's gonna say what's going on? So it was usually me. So I had this sort of bombastic, animated sort of voice, and I could switch tones at random, you know, like yalla bina, like that, or from tafaddal ma, or let's go. It just came to me. So the students and their projects would come to me, like, could you please do our voiceover? Please come do the voiceover. So I was like the VO of the college campus.
Nice.
And shortly after, when I joined my first agency, they had a sound studio in the building. Mm. So you could write your comms or your ads or whatever, and you can go and personally record them downstairs yourself. There's a 24/7 sound engineer, never complained about, you know, after 7 or anything like that. He was there. His name was Sam.
Him to me.
and I would record them. And because I worked there, I've recorded a lot of them, especially for brands like, you know, Vodafone and Persil and whatever. So it became a path for training, for really not just improving the sound quality or control of your voice, but also the writing, how to write better, how to write shorter, how to write faster, how to write interestingly, which helped a lot. But at that time, these were professional sessions that went out to the public, and I didn't get paid a dime.
Okay.
Because I was just working there. Over 200 ads or something at the time. Yeah.
And do you remember the first paid one after that?
I do. Well, at some point, traction was moving. So another sound studio on the other side of Cairo, like miles away, called me to do a voiceover for Sprite.
Okay.
And the pay at the time was like 400 Egyptian pounds, which by today's standards, you don't want to know how much that is. But that was, but anyway, I was excited. I went over. I drove over, and it was this dark studio, and I started, putting the characters. It was an interesting ad. It was two characters who were discussing what they would like to do to Thirst, if Thirst were a character. Like how much they would want to like sort of get revenge on Thirst, or like, what they're going to do to it. And then bleeps started coming in. Like it was one of those ads which like took a minute, and it was very interesting. And the agency at the time was very happy with it. And I was very pleased with the envelope. At the time it would pay you in envelopes,
Sure.
Yeah, so that became sort of, let's say the start where I had to take this seriously. I had to, collect all my work and start pushing in getting, more jobs, in getting affiliated with specific brands as well, which is also important, being in this industry at some point.
Of course. And you mentioned that you studied in mass communications, and I'm curious because I've known you for years now. As a creative director, creative consultant, and also a voiceover talent who studied in mass communications, how have your studies affected your voiceover career?
Well, as I was saying, it was born out of necessity. Like you understand the process of, the basics of message and the medium, Marshall McLuhan and all that stuff, and then when you're crafting your message to an audience, you hear it in your head. It's sort of the brain waves sort of come there. You know what I mean? So no one could better tell your story except yourself. Now, how do you transcend what's here to here and portray that? So I think that was the you would say the mechanical transformation at that time.
And what would you say are some of the challenges that you first faced when you first entered this industry?
Oh, yeah, there's we can talk about this one for quite some time. I've got a few stories for you. See, every challenge does have a what do you say, like a sort of a silver lining at the end, yeah. But you want to be a bit maybe specific about a challenge, because the challenge for the agency or a challenge for the voiceover artist or for the sound studio, they all sort of view the challenge from a different standpoint.
How did you first enter the voiceover industry here in Dubai?
Interesting question. It was, I believe it was 2007, and I had visited Dubai at the time to witness Iron Maiden, if you remember the Dubai Desert Rock Festival back then.
In 2006?
2006.
You were there? I was there as well.
Yeah, and I even had the chance to meet them, which was I met Bruce Dickinson and Nico McBrain and all of them at the. Get this, it was the journalism panel, and I had a friend who was with Time Out at the time.
Okay,
and she said, "Would you like to come and meet Iron Maiden with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." She was like, "Yeah, you just pretend that you're a part of the press." And I was like, "Okay." And I had to make up, a place, like, who do I represent? And I just went in there, and I wore this red Santa Cruz shirt, like I looked like a surfer dude. You know what I mean? And into meeting one of my all-time favorite metal bands. And then for some reason, during the press conference, I raised my hand to ask a question. And I said, like, hi, I'm Karim from KPPX Rock Radio Cairo, which is a non-existent radio station. And Bruce Dickinson looked at me and said, okay, oh, you're from Cairo. We should get help house slave set and come out and play by the pyramids. What do you mean? You're right, we're going to hold you to that. I was just baffled by that. Like I thought like I have to put a concert together at the pyramids for Iron Maiden. But nevertheless, so I came here for a visit and at that time, and then I was doing some freelance work with one of the prominent agencies here. And they had introduced me to one of the best sound studios at the time, BKP, Barry Kirsch. I went there, beautiful, big villa, swimming pool, like this can't be a sound studio. And I went and I did my recordings. No, I didn't do I wasn't recording at the time. I was supervising a recording as a creative copywriter.
Okay.
And I was very impressed with the quality and everything back then. And I was like, oh, I gotta get into doing this here. And I went up to the front desk and I was like, hey, I do voiceovers too. And I believe it was like, yeah, sure. Just leave your stuff there, or we'll leave your number and we'll call you. I was like, okay, if I leave my number, probably no one's gonna get back. So I did what you would do back then. You remember when you used to burn information on CDs? So I put all my sort of past work on a CD, and I wrote on it with a marker. I wrote, like BKP, Karim Sherif. And I went with the CD, and I went back to the front desk, and I like handed over CD. I was like, here. And a week later, the phone starts ringing, you know what I mean? And come on down, and we've got this script and that script. And they would bring me in for Arabic, and then they would see I could do English, and then I would bring me in for English, but then ask me to do Arabic. And then the Arabic got out of hand, where like the script would be, for example, Lebanese, and I do the Egyptian dialect. So I was like, no, I can't. Okay, just, so they would call the copywriter, and the copywriter would speak in Lebanese, and I would have to imitate.
Wow.
And then there would be, because they want the voice, but they don't care about the dialect at the time. So now I had to make it very clear that, you could do your classical, your Arabic, your Egyptian, but, you got to get your casting right every time, because, some people think, Arabic is, cross borders, whatever. No, it isn't. Every country is different. Every dialect is different. There are different words. There are different tones. There are different reasons to even use these dialects. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And, okay, you mentioned that you studied in mass communications in Egypt. I know that you're passionate about music as well. So you were already in the world of sound. You recorded multiple voiceover projects, even though they were unpaid, until you got your paid session in Cairo, and then you moved to Dubai. I'm curious, Karim, how has all that experience affected your career as a voiceover talent, voiceover artist?
It's been good. It's been. I'm thankful for all the journeys I've been through, the people I've met on the way, teaching me or guiding me. I remember one of my mentors was the great Tariq Noor. Tariq Noor is the godfather of advertising in Egypt. And his voice is very distinctive. And I grew up listening to his voice. And I had the honor of even joining the agency and working very closely with him in that sound studio where I used to do a lot of voiceovers at the time. And he even personally gave me pointers. Like sometimes you would have to rush the script because you're running out of time. Let's say or you're pronouncing the brand, like depending on the humor or the drama within the creative itself. And then he caught me once saying, get it now on Vodafone. And he was like, what? Do that again. I was like, get it now on Vodafone. And he was like, it's not Vodafone, Vodafone. I was like, okay, yeah, lose the on.
You made it into a French accent.
Yeah, for some reason it just came out like that. But he was great. He was wonderful, and definitely one of the main reasons why I've wanted so much to do my own voiceover work on my let's say creative initiatives or for others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Karim, can you tell us about a memorable or challenging recording session that you've been through?
Yeah, there's multiple ones. I think we had one together.
Do you remember the client?
Yeah, it was a shampoo.
Head and Shoulders.
Yeah,
Head and Shoulders.
Yeah, that was it was getting a bit frustrating. It was challenging, but I mean, I hope they got what they wanted at the end. You remember the people responsible for the session started showing up one by one, giving comments. They didn't all show up at the same time. Mm-hmm. We had finished the first part, and you were very happy, and you said, this is great, and the take was selected. And then the copywriter shows up, and he's like, let's take more takes. And then the producer shows up, and then let's take more takes. And he like sort of overwrites the copywriter. Mm-hmm. And then the client shows up, and it throw all the script out the window. It was how you say 100% zero dandruff. And I genuinely think, remember, we did probably something like over 300
takes of dandruff-free, 100%.
Yeah, I remember. Like it was like in both English and Arabic. And I was like 100% بدون إشراء. And it was like I think the 100%, the 100% isn't that clear. 100%. It's almost like you're gonna pull your lung out and like here, you know what I mean? And then after that, he was like, okay, and then he would. We have to take the approval of my boss, mm-hmm. And you looked at him and you had to like pick up the phone and put the phone to the speaker. You remember that?
Of course.
Yeah, and it was so weird. How would we, you let people judge the sound session over the phone on a speaker.
On a speaker, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's how it was, unfortunately, at the time. So all of that was quite a turbulent session, I suppose.
And the irony of it is that they ended up using take one, which we recorded in the beginning. Yeah, it's like we recorded like 300 takes, like you said, and then the client is like, okay, I don't know about this, don't know about that. Then you just play take one. Oh, I like that one. Oh. Please mark it. Oh. That's approved.
It happened.
It happens. Karim, what advice would you give someone who clearly has passion for the voiceover industry, for everything advertising? It comes to you and asks you, like, how do you first enter the voiceover industry? What would you tell this person?
Yeah, sure. I would tell this person to pursue it. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's great. And I think a lot of young people are already doing it based on how they perform on their social media channels, whether they're, like yourself, whether people are doing podcasts or are, have, their own channels and talk about things. They are using their voice already to lure in an audience. So people are becoming aware of the importance of voice talent and holding that attention. But if you want to do it really professionally and transcend into characters and voice acting and doing professional work, well, yeah, definitely you could easily practice, easily train your breath, record yourself, on the phone or something, or just do what I did. Just go to any of the wonderful sound studios we have across the entire country. They're more than open and willing to bring in new talent. You just walk into the booth with whatever you feel comfortable. because you might have something that's really unique. So it's that simple. Also, it's very important to note that the voice of your thoughts paves the way for performance, because if you truly believe in what's written and you think it, the output is going to come out really well.
I love that. I love that. I'm curious, Karim, we've seen a rise in AI technology. And you know this as a creative. Now you can just like enter a prompt into ChatGPT and boom, you get a script or a creative approach for a new commercial or whatever. What are your thoughts on the development of artificial intelligence or text-to-speech for voiceover talents? How will this affect us, in your opinion?
I don't think it will affect us at all, because I've been experimenting personally, even with some software, some funny, which I'll tell you about, and some which are trying to be utilized for, you know, quick videos and stuff like that. But it's very obvious right now. In a very short time, people can tell right off the bat, even if it's good, if this was developed by a machine or not. You can't. Voice is a biological, you know, a part of the human species. There are vocal cords. There's emotions. There's feelings there. It will never be replaced by AI 100%. We will always need voice actors and humans to deliver, because you will lose credibility if you depend on just AI it and post it and here's my ad with an AI voiceover. You could use it if you want to, you know, send the client an idea with a bit of music and a bit of mixing and sort of like, yeah, this is sort of where we're going with it. If you don't want to do it yourself on your phone or something, at a presentation level in the beginning. But no, for it taking over, not so necessarily. However, I did come across a very interesting app called Parrot. So that AI mimics famous voices. Okay, and I believe I've done one for you. Actually, let's check it out. Yeah, so I'm guessing you'll know who this is. Check it out.
Hey everyone, you are now listening to the Voices of Dubai with Joe Hab. It's fantastic. It's terrific. Subscribe and share now.
Donald Trump. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but did he say Joe Have?
Joe Hab. Yeah.
Joe Have.
That's funny.
Doesn't know the word, but yeah.
Joe Hab. So I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that. Like in terms of branding, I'm talking in terms of branding now. Like you said that it's not really good for their image, for brands' images. You know, to have AI voices represent their ads, and I really believe that the music, the sounds, sound effects, and the voices that you use for your campaigns, they really reflect your brand, your brand's values, and yeah, what you'd like to present about your brand.
Yeah, they say, you know, it's part of a brand's personality. You know, the voice of the brand. Even you've had many guests who were signed on as voiceovers for particular brands. You know what I mean? Myself, for a time, I did Lipton, Snickers, and you know, brands don't want to veer from that, because that's a part of them. You know, it's human. It transcends what they want to say and the message properly. If you start putting AI into it, you know what I mean, then your equity is gone. You know what I mean? Who's gonna trust you? Now it depends. Maybe there is an interesting brief in using AI, and here's the thing: I'm not against AI. I think AI are just a manifestation or the modern tools that we could use. You know, like back when there was no Microsoft Word. You know, what would people use? Typewriters. You know what I mean? So if we just use, you know, all AI tools as an extension, I think we're gonna, you know, save time and still, you know, keep the human flow of creative work going. But time will tell, you know.
Yeah, I like that, and actually it makes sense. You know, like let's suppose your brand doesn't really have a budget to develop an idea; they're just pitching an idea to their client. You know, let's say you work in an agency and you want to pitch an idea to your client, but you don't have a budget to hire a professional voiceover talent. Then I guess in that sense, having an AI voice record a text for you is a cost-effective option and also a time-effective option.
Well, you still have to subscribe. I mean, like now, and then convince someone like, hey, we need to subscribe to this thing. Like when you subscribe to, you know, looking for images, or, you know, those image websites and whatever. So it's the same thing. I was like, as soon as there's like money involved, you know, it's like, huh? Really? Well, can you rip it? Or like, you know? No. You know, and so, I mean, like, not a lot as obviously how, because our process is way more, you know, has all the right qualities, you know, like when going to the studio and experiencing the session. For clients and creatives to talk with the voiceover artist and the voiceover artist to clearly understand there's human interaction there. The best delivery comes out of that. You know what I mean? So even if, and it's not about cost. I don't think it's about cost. Like even coming to a studio and recording shouldn't be costly. It should be a necessary part of the journey of any creative campaign.
And Karim, I'm curious. So you mentioned a couple of brands that you recorded for, and I personally, like, I know that you've recorded for some of the biggest brands across the globe and local brands. We're talking Vodafone, Snickers, Head and Shoulders, Ariel, and many others. Yeah. Was there a particular session that really stuck with you, that really affected you, or that you really enjoyed?
I enjoy, okay, so a part of you know, doing voice work is sometimes singing, you know what I mean? So, and yes, I used to do a lot of jingles, you know, back in the early 2000s, you know what I mean, especially in Egypt, which is making a comeback, by the way, like you know, like songs, jingles, repetition. I do enjoy that. I do enjoy part of the jingle work, and it was the wild west back then in Egypt, because there were no rights management entities to call out, you know, you kind of borrowing a song and rewriting the lyrics. So we used to get away with literally murder. Like we could
Copyright infringement.
You could take a Harry Belafonte song or Michael Jackson. Like I remember one time we were working on a new sort of product. It was a machine called Easy that you just pay it, and you could you know, buy a scratch card for your phone or cinema tickets or whatever. It was just like a vending machine that gave you stuff that everyday stuff that you need. And what we had on the table was like, okay, what if we take Beat It from Michael Jackson, you know, like and you write to that. So like go something like, for example, I'm going to do this in Arabic. كل مرة تعطل في مشاوير مش عارف أشحن كارتة وأدفع فواتير رنات ولوجوهات وتذاكر سينمات مع إيزي ما كانت المعجزات مع إيزي كله عايز يروح لإيه. So you could just write this. It's done properly in the studio. It's approved and it's on Nile FM or it's on the radio. Wow. And it was anything went. Back then, there was a resort, Porto Marina or something, you know what I mean? Like you could find probably half of the Beatles songs written to, you know, Porto Marina back then. So yeah, is it right? No. Is it fun? Yes.
Yeah, sure. So Karim, as you know, we've seen a big shift in the industry after COVID. We used to go physically to studios. You know, we'd have creatives such as yourself, producers, client servicing, the client, the sound engineer, the studio producer. Yeah. We went from being physically present in a studio to basically doing everything remotely and having like 20 people on a call. What are your thoughts on this whole development?
There's good and bad to it. I mean, you don't have to get people to drive. I mean, usually it should be a handful of small people, so you don't get a lot of opinions, a lot of fingers in the cake. And usually it should just be the creative who is responsible for the output of because that creative has the responsibility to deliver the best work that the agency has trusted him or her with, and to make the client, give the client what makes them satisfied, and at the end of the day also deliver on the brand. The challenges have been obviously that you still need the approval process, but it's it's easier. Lots of people now do home studios. They set them up. They could record quickly. They can do many takes, and the internet is lightning fast now, so it doesn't have if you're a little bit late, a little bit early, it's okay. It will happen. Probably the thing is, I'm old school. I love going to the studio. I don't have a home setup. I need to hire you probably to come up and teach me how to use it. I enjoy the interactions and the expressions and meeting the clients and meeting the agency people while doing the session. Nevertheless, of course, if you want to expand your experience globally, yes, you do need probably that home setup, or to dabble in it at least bit by bit. So even for self-improvement.
Thanks for that, man. And I'm curious, in your opinion, after all your years of experience, and I'm not only talking as a voiceover talent, also your experience as a creative, you've directed many sessions and you've directed many different talents across the years. What is your definition of a great voiceover talent?
Wow. Great voiceover talent. Patience, which is something I don't have, unfortunately. But if you are a patient voiceover, you will be liked. You will get a lot of work. Definitely, also, it's just the resonance in the room, the resonance of that voice when it's heard. You stop what you're doing and you listen, or your brain stops and you listen. Whether you're driving your car and hearing it on the radio, whether you're in a meeting or something, and that speaks. If you find that, or you have that resonance, it does take you wonderful places. Now, of course, the dessert are the scripts, the humor. Some stand-up comedians are better than others because of their voice, even though their jokes could be worse, but they sound easier and better and more, you're drawn to it. You know what I mean? Like George Carlin, for example. You could listen to George Carlin for hours, because something about his voice, it's unique, it's distinctive, and he lures you in with all of that, intelligent comedy. Other stand-up comedians, the jokes could be, even funnier, but you're just like, did it buzz me?
Something missing, right?
Yeah, but there could be many things. But if we break it down to just like maybe 3 points, I would say, you just patience and the resonance, and you just love doing it, man. If you just like breaking into the character every time. And living the words on the page and reflecting them out. If you could do that with any script, you're the person for the job.
Can you tell our listeners what got you interested, and basically how did you discover your passion for recording your voice, recording characters, recording various different scripts?
Well, I mean, I grew up in the 80s, so it was the best time for children's entertainment in terms of cartoons, and we had a lot of intelligent shows back then, and you would watch these shows and you would absorb the the sounds of, like Skeletor, for example, or the Lion-O from Thundercats and whatever, and you'd be like, this is Lou Scheimer, who produced all of the, or a lot of those shows back then. He knew that voice carries 50% of the story. I just kept doing voices at then until by school or something, I became a bit of an impressionist. And would sort of use different accents or do impressions of the teachers or whatever. And then I became, quite, formidable at it a little bit. Like the kids would be like, oh, do this, oh, do that. Whatever. Like, no, it's not a button. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's funny because I took the accent thing a bit, further. And then I was watching, on social media, a lot of these guys who are very good at accents, and they're using it to their advantage. And I'm older, and I would look at that and I would be like, why didn't I do that earlier? You know what I mean? I remember one time I met this German girl, and I put on my German, which is German gibberish. Like that nothing makes sense. I'll give you an example. Like I walked up to her and I was like, und ja, der Staufentreibend und Abschieden klein. Genau, der Reinhören und Abschieden. So hier das. And you just do the waves, like und first lesson, und wave one, wave two, und ja, und Regenhain. And she thought I was from a different part of Germany. Like it wasn't like, oh, that's not German, you're just messing, but very good accent. But no, it was like, oh, und ja, und are you from the north? No.
It sounds legit. That's the thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I since I was I was aware that I had some capabilities, you know what I mean, then take that professionally was the way to go.
Karim, I want to take this time to acknowledge you for your work as a voiceover talent and for your work as a creative director. Thank you for taking this time to share your experience, your insights, and lots of value with our listeners.
No, listen, man, it's been awesome, and congrats to you on the show. And there's a lot of lovely people who come here, and I do advise everyone to click that share button and subscribe to Joe Hage, the Voices of Dubai.
Thanks for that, bro.